It began on a cold, rain-soaked evening in the quiet suburbs of Ridgestone, the kind of night that looked harmless from afar, streetlights glowing through the mist, water rippling down the pavements, a calm that hid something waiting. Amelia was alone in her small rented house at the edge of Brookline Street, staring at the flickering TV, trying to drown out the silence that pressed against her walls like a weight. The clock read 7:46 p.m. when she heard 3 soft knocks at her front door. They were deliberate, measured, almost polite. She frowned. No one ever came by unannounced. She hadn't ordered anything. Her heart gave a quick jump. At first, she thought she imagined it may be the TV or the wind. Then it came again, knock, 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 louder this time. She got up slowly, grabbed her cardigan, and walked toward the door. The sound of the rain filled the silence between each step. When she peered through the peephole, she saw nothing but the empty porch and the glistening street. Beyond, not a person, not a car, just a small brown package sitting neatly on her doormat. No label, no name, just brown paper and a thin black string tied across it. She hesitated, the kind of hesitation you feel in your gut before your mind understands why. Finally, she cracked the door open. Cold air swept in, and the rain hissed against the porch roof. She bent down, touched the package. It was dry, as though it had been placed there only moments ago. But whoever dropped it off was gone. She looked up and down the street again. Nothing. She carried it inside and set it on the kitchen counter, water dripping from her sleeves. The TV still flickered faintly in the background, casting blue light over the walls. For a moment, she just stared at it. It was oddly heavy for its size. She turned it in her hands, expecting maybe a return address scribbled somewhere. Nothing. Then she noticed something else, faint, embossed letters under the wrapping, pressed so gently that they could only be seen when the light hit just right. It said one word, open. She froze. Her heartbeat picked up. It didn't make sense who would send something like that. She reached for the nearest thing she could use, a butter knife, and carefully sliced through the string. The paper peeled back with a dry whisper. Inside was a small wooden box, polished, old, and cold to the touch. It looked handmade, carved with symbols she didn't recognize, circles, interlocked triangles, and what looked like tiny eyes etched into the sides. The lid had no hinges, just a smooth seam, like it was waiting to be lifted. She hesitated again, her hand hovering. Something in her chest tightened. She felt the weight of the room change, like the air got thicker. The faint hum of the fridge became louder. The TV seemed to buzz deeper, the static crawling under her skin. But curiosity, that stubborn spark, pushed her forward. She lifted the lid. At first, she thought it was empty. Then she saw it, a single, small black key, resting inside, gleaming faintly in the light. It was unnaturally smooth, curved like no key she'd ever seen, with ridges that looked more organic than metal. Something about it made her shiver. She reached out and touched it. The moment her fingers brushed the surface, a sharp cold shot up her arm. She gasped, dropping it. The key clattered against the counter, and for half a second, she thought she saw something move in the corner of her eye, a shadow slipping along the hallway wall. She turned sharply. Nothing there, just the hum of the TV and the rain outside. Amelia took a deep breath, rubbed her hand. Okay, she whispered to herself. You're just tired, that's all. She wrapped the key back into the paper, but the instant she did, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then everything went dark. The TV snapped off, plunging the room into silence. Outside, the rain still fell harder now, and the house creaked faintly, like it was breathing. She stood frozen, listening. And then, somewhere in the house, something moved. A soft scraping sound came from the hallway, slow, dragging, like fingernails against wood. Her mouth went dry. Hello, she said, barely a whisper. No response. The sound stopped, then started again, closer. Her trembling hand found her phone. The screen wouldn't turn on. Dead. She backed toward the kitchen drawer, grabbed the flashlight she kept there, flicked it on, and the beam caught the floor, the wall, the hallway, and then froze. There were wet footprints leading down the hall, human-sized, bare, trailing from the front door to the living room. But she hadn't gone that way. The door was still locked. She stared at them, her pulse thundering. Something in her gut screamed to run. But another part of her curiosity or denial made her follow. She stepped closer, flashlight trembling in her grip. The prints glistened faintly, as though the water on them wasn't water at all, but something thicker, darker. When she reached the living room, she stopped breathing. There, by the TV, stood a tall figure, unmoving, facing away from her. Its shape was wrong, shoulders too narrow, arms too long. She froze, unable to speak. Her flashlight trembled. Who are you? The figure didn't move. Then, in one slow, jerking motion, its head turned halfway, not fully, just enough for her to see its profile. Its skin looked smooth and pale, but where the eyes should have been were only dark, empty sockets. Her scream caught in her throat. The flashlight flickered once, twice, and when it steadied, the figure was gone. Only the dripping sound remained, slow, steady, like something wet sliding down the walls. She stumbled back, gasping, clutching the counter. No, no, she whispered when she turned Toward the kitchen again, she froze. The wooden box was open on its own and the key was gone the next morning. Amelia woke up on the couch, sunlight spilling across the room. Her head throbbed. She didn't remember falling asleep. For a long moment, she thought maybe it was all a nightmare. But then she saw the open box, the torn wrapping, and the faint, black footprint still dried on the floor. Her stomach churned. She searched the house top to bottom. Nothing. The doors were locked. Windows shut. It was as if no one had ever been there. She considered calling someone, the police, her landlord, anyone, but what would she say? That a box appeared, and a shadow man without eyes stood in her living room. They'd think she was losing it, so she cleaned the floor, put the box away in a drawer, and tried to convince herself it was done, but it wasn't. That night, as she tried to sleep, she heard faint scratching at her bedroom wall, slow, patient, rhythmic, tap, 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 pause, tap. She held her breath. It stopped the moment she moved. She got up, turned on the lamp, checked the wall. Nothing there. When she turned off the light, the tapping resumed, louder this time, and then she heard something else, faint but clear, a whisper, right beside her ear. Opened the door. She bolted upright, heart pounding. Who's there? No answer. Just silence. Then, faintly, from the hallway, the sound of something metallic hitting the floor. She crept out of bed, trembling, switched on the hall light. And there it was, the black key, lying in the middle of the hallway, gleaming as though it had just been polished. She picked it up slowly. The moment her fingers wrapped around it, the lights flickered again and a deep, low hum filled the air, vibrating through the floor. It was the same tone she'd heard the night before, but louder, closer, almost under her skin. Then the whisper came again, clearer now. Right behind her, it's waiting. She spun around. Nothing, just shadows. But this time she didn't scream. Something in her changed. She turned the key over in her hand, and beneath its smooth surface, she could feel something pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. Amelia didn't sleep the rest of that night. She sat in her living room with every light on, the black key sitting on the coffee table in front of her. It didn't look threatening anymore, but it didn't feel harmless either. Every few minutes she'd glance at it, half expecting it to move. The hum she heard earlier was gone, but she could still feel it in her chest, like a faint vibration under her ribs. She tried to tell herself she was imagining it, that she'd been under too much stress. She even laughed once, a hollow, nervous sound, and said out loud, "You're not crazy, Amelia. You're just tired." But deep down, she knew that was a lie. By morning, she wrapped the key in paper again, stuffed it into a kitchen drawer, and left for work early. She worked at a local bookstore, the kind of place where time seemed to move slower. The smell of paper and coffee usually calmed her, but today, even the familiar scent couldn't stop the unease crawling up her spine. Every time the bell above the door rang, she flinched. Every time someone brushed past her, she imagined they whispered something she couldn't quite hear. Around noon, her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She stared at it for a long moment before answering. Hello, static, then a faint, distorted voice so soft it barely rose above the noise. "Did you open it?" Her breath caught. "Who is this?" The voice didn't answer directly, just a long exhale, like someone breathing against the phone. Then, "Don't lose the key." The line went dead. Amelia froze, staring at her reflection in the store's glass counter. Her hand trembled. She called the number back, but it said disconnected. She felt eyes on her. A man stood at the far end of the store, looking at the shelves but never touching a book. He was tall, thin, dressed in a dark coat. She could only see the side of his face, pale skin, expressionless. When she blinked, he was gone. By evening, she told herself she couldn't live like this. Maybe the key had something inside it. Maybe it was some kind of prank. Maybe there was a hidden tracker. She needed to know. When she got home, the air inside the house felt heavier, colder. She pulled the drawer open, took the key out. It was still warm, almost alive. For a moment, she just stood there, staring at it. Then she said to no one, "Fine, you want me to open it? Let's see what you..." The key didn't fit any lock in her house, not the front door, not her jewelry box, not even the shed behind the kitchen. But as she walked past her basement door, the one she hadn't opened in months, the air shifted. It wasn't imagination this time. She felt it. The key seemed to vibrate faintly, like it was drawn to the handle. She stared at the door. It was just an old basement, unfinished, cold, and cluttered. But something deep inside her whispered that she shouldn't. She didn't listen. Her hand turned the key, the lock clicked, the door swung open on its own, and a wave of cold, damp air swept out. Her flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing the narrow wooden stairs and the faint shimmer of dust floating in the air. She stepped down slowly, each step creaking under her weight. The deeper she went, the colder it got. By the time she reached the bottom, she could see her breath. The basement was exactly as she remembered: boxes, old tools, a broken lamp. But something was wrong. The concrete floor looked wet, reflecting the light like it was covered in oil. The smell was sharp and metallic. She took another step forward and froze. There was a door at the far end of the basement that hadn't been there before, small, old, made of rough wood with the same strange symbols carved into it as the box upstairs. Her heart thudded painfully, the key pulsed again in her hand. No, she whispered, but she kept walking. When she reached it, she could hear something faint on the other side. Like whispering voices, hundreds of them, all speaking at once but too low to make out. Her fingers trembled as she slid the key into the hole. It turned smoothly, almost too easily. The door clicked and swung open. The whisper stopped. The darkness inside wasn't just absence of light, it felt alive, dense, almost liquid. Her flashlight beam barely penetrated it. Then something moved, a shape tall, slow, rippling like smoke unfolded from the black. It had no face, no features, just shifting contours that made her eyes water when she tried to focus. The voice that came wasn't from one mouth, it was from many, layered. Like a chorus speaking in unison. You opened the way. Amelia stumbled back, the key falling from her hand. What are you? You brought her here. The thing reached toward her, not physically, but its shadow stretched across the floor, curling up her legs like cold smoke. She screamed, slamming the door shut, twisting the key. The whispers burst back into chaos on the other side, pounding, scratching. She ran upstairs, slammed the basement door, locked it again, and collapsed against the wall, gasping for air. The house seemed to pulse, breathing in time with her racing heart. The lights flickered, then steadied. She sat there for hours, listening. Nothing. Silence returned by the next morning. She looked like a ghost, herself pale, sleepless, and shaking. She couldn't tell if what happened was real anymore. But one thing she knew: she couldn't stay here. She stuffed the key, the box, everything into a bag and drove across town to her friend's place. Lydia opened the door, eyes wide. Jesus, Amelia, you look terrible. I need to stay here for a while, she said. Lydia didn't ask questions. She made coffee, gave her a blanket, and let her sleep. For a few hours, Amelia felt safe. That night, Lydia woke to the sound of something dropping on the kitchen floor. She went to check and found Amelia standing barefoot by the counter, eyes half open, holding the black key. Amelia, what the hell are you doing? Amelia blinked slowly, her voice monotone. It's calling me. Before Lydia could move, Amelia walked toward the front door and began unlocking it. The rain outside hammered against the porch roof. Stop, Lydia shouted, grabbing her arm. Amelia turned to her, and for a split second, Lydia saw something in her eyes that wasn't human. Black veins spiderwebbed under her skin, pulsing faintly like ink moving through glass. Lydia screamed and shoved her back. The key slipped from Amelia's hand and hit the floor. The moment it touched, the lights went out. The two women froze. Then, from somewhere deep in the house, came that same low hum, the one Amelia had heard in her own home. It grew louder, deeper, until the walls themselves seemed to vibrate. Lydia, Amelia whispered, run. They both turned toward the door, but standing there in the rain was a figure, tall, motionless, skin glistening like wet ash. Its empty socket stared straight at them. Lydia screamed, yanked Amelia toward the stairs, and they ran, slamming the bedroom door shut behind them. The sound of footsteps followed, slow, heavy, deliberate. Something scraped against the door. Then, the voice: you opened the way. Lydia grabbed her phone, shaking hands, dialing 911. But the screen flickered static, then went black. The voice came again, closer this time. You cannot close what's been opened. Amelia pressed her back against the door, sobbing. It wants the key, she whispered. Lydia looked down. The key wasn't there anymore. Lydia's hands trembled. As she looked around the room, the key was gone. The sound on the other side of the door grew fainter for a moment, then stopped completely. The silence that followed was worse. It was alive, breathing. She turned to Amelia. Where is it? Amelia's lips quivered. It doesn't stay where you leave it. Before Lydia could respond, the lights in the room flickered on and off rapidly, each flash revealing something different. The walls seemed closer, the shadows longer. In one flicker, she saw the tall, eyeless figure standing behind Amelia. The next flash, it was gone. Lydia grabbed Amelia and screamed, get down. The door exploded inward with a deafening crash. Wood splintered, cold air rushed in. The figure stepped through the smoke and debris. Long limbs, skin stretched too tight, face smooth except for those hollow sockets. It moved like a marionette, jerking but purposeful. Lydia screamed, throwing a lamp at it, but it passed through the thing like light through smoke. The creature turned its head toward Amelia. Its voice echoed, not from its mouth but from everywhere at once. The key is the door. Amelia's body froze. She started whispering, over and over, I didn't mean to open it. I didn't mean to. Lydia grabbed her friend, dragged her toward the window. We are getting out. She smashed the glass with a chair. Cold rain poured in. They climbed out, stumbling into the wet grass. The moment their feet hit the ground, the sound stopped. No footsteps, no hum, just silence. They ran until their lungs burned, rain mixing with tears. They didn't stop until they reached Lydia's car. She threw open the door, shoved Amelia inside, and they sped off down the dark street. Tell me what the hell is going on, Lydia shouted. Amelia was shaking, staring at her hands. It started with a package, a box, a key. I opened it and she stopped. Her pupils dilated. Her voice dropped to a whisper. It wants me to finish what I started. What does that mean? Amelia turned slowly, eyes unfocused. There's another door. I saw it, in the dark. It's not here. It's somewhere else. Lydia's knuckles went white on the steering wheel. We are going to the police, but when she looked in the rearview mirror, her stomach turned. There was someone sitting in the backseat, pale, motionless, the eyeless man. Lydia screamed, swerved the car, spun off the road, crashed through a guardrail, and hit the ditch hard. Airbags exploded. Everything went black when Amelia opened her eyes. The rain had stopped. The car was upside down, engine hissing. Lydia hung limp from the seatbelt beside her, blood trickling from her temple. Amelia crawled out of the shattered window, coughing. Her ears rang. The road was empty. The night was completely still. No sound of wind. No crickets. Nothing. She stumbled a few feet before she saw it lying on the wet asphalt, gleaming faintly under the broken headlights. The key. She stared at it. You can't keep following me, she whispered. But as she bent to pick it up, something made her look toward the tree line. There was a door standing there, just a door freestanding, not attached to any wall or frame. Old wood. The same carving she'd seen before. It shouldn't have been possible. Yet it stood perfectly upright among the dripping trees. She should have run. But she didn't. The key pulsed again in her hand. Her feet moved on their own. The moment she reached the door, she heard whispering behind it, faint at first, then growing louder. Voices calling her name. Amelia. She pressed her ear to the wood. The voices stopped. Then, a single one, soft and familiar, spoke. Help me. Her heart seized. Lydia. The voice came again. Weaker. Please, help me. She turned the key in the lock. The door opened inward, revealing darkness that breathed like fog. And in that darkness stood Lydia, pale, trembling, eyes wide. Lydia. Amelia gasped, stepping forward, but something was wrong. Lydia's mouth was open like she was screaming, but no sound came out. Her body moved in jerks, like something was controlling her. Her eyes rolled back, and from her throat came that same chorus of whispers. The way must remain open. The door slammed shut behind Amelia. She spun around. No handle, no exit, just darkness, and the echo of breathing. She ran. Her flashlight beam barely lit more than a few feet ahead. The floor under her feet felt like it was alive, pulsing with each step. Whispers followed her above, below, behind. Then she saw it, a faint red glow ahead, growing brighter. She ran toward it, desperate for any escape. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber filled with hundreds of doors, all floating in the air, shifting slowly like pendulums, each one carved with symbols, each one humming faintly. At the center stood the eyeless figure, waiting. You opened the first, it said. Now you must open the last. Amelia shook her head violently. No, I won't. The figure tilted its head. You already have. Every door in the chamber creaked open at once, revealing nothing but blinding darkness beyond. A deafening wind howled through, pulling everything toward it, objects, debris, even the ground itself. Amelia screamed, grabbing onto a metal bar that appeared from nowhere. The force was immense, dragging her hair and clothes toward the void. Through the chaos, she saw Lydia again, floating among the doors, her face blank, whispering words Amelia couldn't understand, and then silence. Everything stopped. The doors closed. The figure was gone. Amelia was alone in a vast, empty blackness. She turned in circles, heart hammering, until she saw something glowing faintly in the distance. The box, the same wooden box sitting on a stone pedestal. She walked toward it. Her hand shook as she reached for the lid. Inside was the black key. Again, her breath broke. No, no, this isn't real. The whisper came again, right behind her ear. It's always real. She spun around and found herself standing in her living room. The TV was on, the rain falling softly outside, just like that first night. The clock read 7:46 p.m. Knock, knock, knock. She froze, staring at the door. Her trembling hand reached for the peephole. The porch was empty except for the same brown package sitting neatly on the mat. Her scream never made a sound. The cycle repeated. She woke again the next morning, convinced it was all a dream, until she saw the box on her table, the wrapping torn open, the black key lying inside. Each night, she tried something different, throwing it away, burning it, burying it, but it always came back, sitting in the same place, waiting. The whispers grew louder, following her through every shadow, every mirror. Then one night, in pure desperation, she called the number that had rung her phone days ago. She didn't expect anyone to answer, but they did. A woman's voice, calm, steady. You shouldn't have opened it. Who are you? Amelia cried. Tell me how to stop it. You can't stop it, the woman said, but you can pass it on. What do you mean? There was silence. Then the voice said, leave the package for someone else. The line cut. Amelia sat there for hours, shaking, crying. The thought of doing that, of giving this curse to someone else, made her sick. But the thing inside the house was getting stronger. It whispered all the time now. Sometimes, she saw it standing in corners even during the day. That night, as the clock struck 746, she did something she swore she never would. She rewrapped the box carefully, tied it with string, and wrote nothing on it. Then she carried it outside and placed it on the doorstep of the house across the street. She stood in the rain, shaking, watching. The moment she set it down, She felt something lift the air around her grew lighter, her body suddenly warm again. The whisper stopped, she turned, and went back inside, collapsed on her couch, sobbing with relief. But across the street, behind the curtain, someone was watching. Ava didn't sleep that night. She couldn't. Every sound felt like it came from inside the walls, the drip of the faucet, the groan of pipes, the soft hum of the refrigerator. It all sounded wrong, as if her home was trying to whisper to her, in a language she wasn't meant to understand. By 3:17 a.m., she was sitting on her couch, wide-eyed, clutching a kitchen knife. The TV was on static, she didn't remember turning it on, and on the coffee table, the box sat again, the same brown cardboard, no blood this time, no markings, but she hadn't brought it back inside, she was sure of that. She stood slowly, every step creaking louder than it should have. "You're not real," she whispered. "You're not real." But the box was there, waiting. The tape wasn't sealed anymore. She reached forward, trembling. Her heart pounded so hard she felt dizzy. She lifted the flaps. Inside nothing. Empty. Just darkness. But the darkness moved, swirling, breathing. Then, a whisper came from inside. "Return it." Ava stumbled back. "Return what?" The whisper grew louder, now distorted, layered, like multiple voices in unison. "What you took." "Ava, I didn't take anything." The air grew colder, frosting her breath. Then, behind her, something answered, "Yes, you did." She spun around and the living room was filled with shadows, shapes like people, but too thin, too tall, too stretched, their heads tilted at impossible angles, their fingers twitching like spiders. One of them reached out and pointed at her. "The package wasn't yours." Ava screamed and threw the knife. It passed through the figure and clattered to the floor. The shadows flickered and vanished. The box was gone, but her reflection in the dark TV screen was still staring long after she turned away. The next morning, the police arrived again. A neighbor had called, reporting screams from Ava's apartment around 4 a.m. When the officers entered, they found the door ajar, and Ava sitting cross-legged on the floor. She was whispering to something in her lap. When they got closer, they realized she was cradling an invisible object, stroking it gently, humming softly. "Ava," one officer said carefully. She looked up, and for the first time, she smiled. "It's okay now. I returned it." There was nothing in her hands. They took her in for evaluation. She was placed in a psychiatric ward under observation. For days, she didn't speak. When she finally did, she asked one question over and over: "Did you get the package?" 2 weeks later, her apartment was cleared out. The landlord boxed up her remaining things. As he stacked the last of the items into a moving van, he found one box in the hallway, small, plain, no address. He assumed it was trash. He tossed it inside the van. The next morning, the van driver's wife opened her front door. There, on the porch, sat a box. No name, no address, just waiting. Months passed. Ava's case became a brief viral mystery. The package girl, they called her. Internet sleuths made theories: drugs, psychological breakdown, government experiment. None of them came close to the truth, because in a forgotten warehouse, somewhere near the docks, there was a collection of boxes, hundreds of them, each labeled only with dates. Each one hummed softly, each one moved. And in the center of the room, a single table stood, on ITA clipboard, with a single sheet of paper, new recipients. A name was freshly printed at the top. The pen beside it moved by itself, writing the next address. "Yours." The package, the camera inside the old post office flickered to life, its red light blinking faintly. Dust floated through the air, lit by the dim yellow of a single hanging bulb. The lens was aimed at a table covered in boxes identical to the one Ava had received. Brown, taped neatly, silent. Each box had a different return address, none of them real. A figure in a dark coat stood behind the table, gloved hands moving with surgical precision. One by one, they sealed the boxes, stamped them, and whispered something before setting each aside. Whispered the same phrase every time, "They must remember." Then the figure reached for the last box, the one that had belonged to Ava. They opened it. Inside wasn't darkness anymore. Inside was a Polaroid. It was a picture of a door, Ava's door. The figure turned it toward the camera and paused. A long, distorted laugh filled the room. Then they slipped the photo into a new box, the one labeled for delivery tonight. Meanwhile, far away, Ava lay in her hospital bed. Her eyes were open, unblinking, her pupils dilated completely black. The nurse adjusted her full line and muttered to a colleague, "She hasn't moved in days." But the moment the lights dimmed and the hallway went silent, Ava whispered something. "Don't open it." Her roommate stirred, confused. "What? Don't open it. Whatever you do, don't." A loud thump interrupted her. The nurse at the front desk frowned. "Did you hear that?" They walked down the hallway, past the rows of sleeping patients. The sound came again. Thump, thump, a slow, steady knocking from one of the rooms. Ava's room. The nurse opened the door and froze. A small brown box sat on Ava's bed. The foredrip was torn out. Ava was gone. On the pillow, in her place, lay a note written in hurried black ink. "It's your turn now," the nurse screamed. Knocking the box to the floor, it burst open empty, but the moment it hit the ground, the hospital lights flickered, every monitor beeped once in unison. Then, silence in every room, every patient whispered one word at the same time: delivered. Across the city, reports started flooding in that night. Random homes receiving unmarked packages, no delivery trucks, no names, just boxes appearing on doorsteps. People opened them out of curiosity. Some found old photos of themselves sleeping, others found recordings of their own voices. A few found nothing but static and whispering when they tried to play the tapes inside, and every single one of them reported the same dream that night of a woman standing at their door, holding a package. Asking softly, "Will you take it?" If they said no, they woke up screaming. If they said yes, they never woke up at all. Weeks later, an online thread appeared on a horror forum. The title read, "Did anyone else get a random box on their porch?" At first, people joked. Then, the replies started pouring in. Photos, videos, stories. A woman posted a shaky video of herself unboxing one. The moment she peeled the tape off, the camera statusied out. When it came back, she was gone, but you could still hear her breathing through the mic. The moderators deleted the thread. Then, their site crashed. By morning, the video had spread everywhere and people were still receiving boxes. Back in the warehouse, the figure in the coat watched the footage on an old TV. Dozens of screens showed hundreds of homes. Each doorstep had a box. A distorted voice crackled from a nearby radio. "Stage 3 complete. How many deliveries remain?" The figure whispered, 7 billion. Then the voice on the radio laughed long, low, mechanical. "Good. Continue the cycle." The camera zoomed in on the clipboard again. Another name appeared, being typed by invisible hands. A Jacob barks, then a soft ding. A new package slid out from the shadows, resting neatly on a conveyor belt, waiting to be shipped. The figure looked straight into the camera for the first time, its face a blur of static, and whispered, "A delivery confirmed." Hours later, somewhere far from a city, a faint knock echoed at a quiet house door. 3 knocks, slow, heavy. The doorbell camera flickered. A package sat alone on the step, perfectly still under the porch light. The label, "To the one who listens." The camera glitched for a moment, then resumed. The package was gone, and from inside the house, a voice whispered, "Thank you for accepting your delivery."